how I personally got into e-commerce. So I'm going to tell you guys a story about how I first got into e-commerce, which is a fancy word for selling stuff on the internet. So for me personally, my path to e-commerce was similar to people in many ways, in the sense that I wanted to create things that made money on autopilot. And I wanted that autopilot revenue to be snowballing, recurring, and I wanted to be able to create things, and I wanted to be able to control the destiny of not only my brands, but of myself. So my personal journey into e-commerce began after I had a career in finance. So for those of you that don't know, finance has many umbrellas. The particular one that I happened to work in was investment banking. Now, seems like a cool job from the outside looking in, but what I'm going to tell you guys is what investment banking is actually like at a very simplistic level. So here's how it works. When you're at an investment bank, you're basically helping to facilitate the acquisition and sale of businesses, particularly very large businesses. My role at this particular company was as an associate, meaning I would help the people that would buy and sell very, very large companies. Now, for me personally, there was a moment where I looked at the people around me, and some of them I got along with really well. Some of them weren't my type of people. Private school people, trust fund people I wouldn't really get along with. The people at the particular bank that I worked for, which was a Wall Street bank, that I got along with were the people that were kind of similar to me, that came from nothing, that had to work their way up from scratch, that were never given anything, that had to earn every opportunity they had. That was the type of person that I had. Now, no matter what job you're doing, whether it's a 9 to 5, whether you're in finance, whether you're a shift worker, you could be packing shelves, you could be digging holes, you could be doing a whole bunch of stuff. But whatever it is that you're doing, the point at which your income is capped is always going to come, because no matter who you are, no matter what you do, the only person who's making more money than anyone in any company anywhere is the CEO. So what's the key takeaway from that? If you want to make exponential money, if you want to make more money than anyone else around you, you have to run the show. Now, this can be very scary, but it doesn't have to be. I'm going to teach you guys why. So my epiphany moment came to me 2 years into my career as a banker, helping to sell other people's companies, meaning other people would come through the doors of our bank that had made themselves very, very, very rich. How did they do this? They simply built companies. They didn't build brands all the time necessarily. We worked across a whole bunch of industries, but at the end of the day, they came into us as the founders of companies to flip those companies, to sell them to acquirers, to cash out, exit, trade sale, whatever it was. They took a bunch of cash off the table because they built something from scratch. So my epiphany moment for e-commerce came the point at which two young gentlemen walked into the bank, coolest guys I'd ever met. I was having a conversation with these two gentlemen in the lobby. We got along really well. Cool guys, t-shirts, shorts, similar to you, anyone that you would see down at your local bar. Really nice guys. I actually had no idea who they were. I thought they were just visiting for a consultation. I didn't actually know what they were there for. We got along, parted ways. These two guys left the bank. After they left, one of the senior associates came up to me and said, "Liam, how were you talking to these two gentlemen?" I said, "They were just two cool guys. We were just having a good conversation, talking a little bit about business, and that was it." And he goes, "Do you know who they are?" And I said, "No." He said, "Liam, these two guys just sold their company for $100 million, and they took home $50 million cash each after they'd left that office." So here I was talking to two regular people, unbeknownst to me, that had just taken home $50 million each. Now, the key takeaway to this is these two gentlemen were very cool, very down to earth, very happy, very normal people. You could attribute a lot of that to the fact that they've gone through the struggles of actually building a business, which generally tends to make you more of like a humble, well-rounded person. But the point is, they walked away with so much money, and it was my boom. That's my moment. This is where I looked at the world and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't put on a suit and go to the same place. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but for me personally, I wanted to have more. And if you're watching this, I assume if you've made it this far, you more than likely want to have more in your life. And I'm here to tell you the only way to do that is you have to become the boss. Yes, it sounds scary, but I'm going to destigmatize it for you. So, circling back to how I got into e-commerce specifically, my first business failed miserably, which was a big wake-up call. This business was in recruitment, and it was very labor-intensive, and there was a very important human element to it, meaning that it required like a lot of humans to be able to drive the revenue in that business. And what happens then is if you don't have great humans, you don't always have a great business. You're going to need humans in e-commerce to an extent. But what's going to happen when you start to get a brand and a store to scale, the degree to which you rely on A players is going to become less and less, because the infrastructure in your e-commerce store can actually make you money on autopilot. And there are quite a number of A players in the game, meaning you can swap them in and out relatively quickly, and you can plug and play with different people who are going to help run your e-commerce store and your brand. So wrap up from where we are now. So in a bank, cap salary. If I stayed there for 10 years, maybe I could have made it to a 7-figure salary. Who fucking knows? But the takeaway is I always knew the money I was going to make was going to be capped. Met two fine gentlemen. They sold their company for $50 million. That was my, okay, I got to do something else moment. Hopefully for you guys, this video is your I've got to do something else moment. I can't tell you what it's going to be, but if you've made it this far, and it's my story about how I got into e-commerce, hopefully it's going to be something to do with making money on the internet, or as I call it, internet money. So, first business failed miserably. It was a recruitment business. People talk about failure a lot in entrepreneurship and being a business person, and you don't necessarily have to fail to be a massive winner or a massive success, but it is something that does happen quite a lot. So you do need to be able to normalize the fact that not everything's going to work straight away. But if you do keep at it and you are consistent and you are genuinely obsessed with what you do, it will pay off in the end. I would go so far as to say it is almost impossible to fail if you're obsessed. I'm going to say that again. It is almost fucking impossible to fail if you are obsessed. If you can't stop thinking about one thing, it may be a day, it may be a week, a month, a year, a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, whatever the fuck it is. If you are obsessed and you can't stop thinking about it, it is very, 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 very hard for that not to materialize. So, first business failed miserably. So I went to one of my closest friends, who was also a mentor, almost like a family member to me, for a little bit of advice. You're going to go to people for advice too, because there are no rules to this shit. This whole game is just made up of people who've figured it out. And the people who come behind them are a product of learning from the people who've just figured it out. In the same way that you're getting free value out of this video, you're going to figure out exactly how I did everything that I had to do to pull my stuff together. So I went to somebody that I trusted and valued as a human for advice on what to do next. What you're going to find in your career is you're going to come across people who've quote unquote made it. And the only way for you to make it is you have to look at them and look at what they've done. And then you have to replicate it, and you have to be able to listen to these types of people. What I've found through decades of doing this stuff now personally is that everything that I've done that has worked has been the product of people above me who've looked at it and said, yep, this is a killer idea. Now, ideas are all over the world. Everyone's got them. But if you want to be successful, who are you going to listen to? Are you going to listen to someone with $3.50 in the bank? Not saying they're a bad person. They could be a wonderful person. They could have a wonderful job. But what I'm saying is, if you listen to someone with $3 in the bank and you ask them, what's a multi-million-dollar e-commerce brand business trend that I should get into? They're most likely not going to know. They're going to be throwing mud at the wall. They're going to have no fucking clue what to do. So what you have to do is you have to figure out who are the people that have made it, how smart are they, what have they done, what can I learn from them, and are they the right type of people for me to take advice from? In this particular instance, the person that I took advice from was exceptionally smart. This person had made so much money that they didn't need any more money. So when I approached them for advice after my first business failed, I was not ready to go back to work. I didn't want to go back to work. Like I said to you guys, if you're fucking obsessed with something, it's going to happen. If I quit at the first failure and went back to work, I wouldn't even be here talking to you. I wouldn't have made any money. I would have no brands, and I'd probably be a fucking loser for the rest of my life. I'm trying to help you guys not be that. So here's what you need to listen to. You need to talk to people who know what they're doing, who've made a shit ton of money, and who have got really good, thoughtful ideas about stuff that's trending and actually making money. Now, at the time, this person that I came to for advice said to me, hey, here's what I've been seeing in the market. People seem to want to get skinny lately. And the advice was, why don't we come up with a business that sells skinny shakes and skinny capsules and supplements that can help people on that journey? And why don't we add value to the consumers in that business by selling them information, content, ebooks, and videos? So you basically build an ecosystem of free value, and then off the back of that free value, you sell a bunch of products, supplements, shakes, and then you can make a ton of money in that particular market. So sometimes you're going to need a push in the right direction. And I'll never forget that this individual, when they recommended to me to do this, the next day, I got offered to partner up with this particular person. And on your journey, a lot of the times I highly recommend doing something with a partner because you need a little bit of yin and a little bit of yang. And sometimes if you have a down day, you need someone who's going to lift you up. You need to be around people who are positive 100%. If you're around people who are negative and you're trying to build businesses with people like that, it's never, ever, ever going to work. So fortunately for me, I got to partner up with this particular individual who I had complete respect for that suggested this industry. Now, when someone puts their faith in you to do something, you are going to work a lot harder. That's why I say, like, if you're going to start a brand and build a business, sometimes it's better to do it with two people, unless you're 100% confident that you feel that you want to go at it yourself. It works both ways. I'm just saying, for me personally, I find generally it's better to do it with two people. If you think about the animal kingdom, typically the best killers are the ones that hunt in packs. If you've got a good pack and you've got a good group of people around you, you're much likely to be a far better killer. So when you're going to brand building and e-commerce, you want to make money online, get a little bit of that internet money, you're going to need killers around you. So I highly suggest, if you're doing it, do it with the right people and partner up with people that you know have what it takes to be able to create brands. That first brand in our first month did $10,000, which I thought was pretty cool. The second month, that brand did $35,000. By the fourth month, that brand had already done $100,000 in sales. Now, this was just using the bare basics: Facebook ads, a little bit of influencer marketing, a little bit of SEO, some growth hacking. If you want to learn more about growth hacking, I've got a ton of content on that. I'll drop some links in the bio. I'm not going to go into all the tricks in this video, but there are a bunch of things that you can do that will really like fucking skyrocket that brand and just hockey stick it into the air. I'll put links in bio for that if you guys want to check it out. But the bare basics got this brand to $100,000 a month. Now, that was more than my salary at the time that I quit the investment banking role that I had. So here's me, a guy who had no clue, who didn't even know what an e-commerce brand was, simply came up with an idea, found a mentor, partnered up on the business, paid a web developer to make a website, sourced some product and branded it up to make it beautiful, not drop shipping, which is fucking dead, and I'll tell you why in another video, created a brand of value, added value to my consumer base, and within 4 months, that brand made $100,000. This was at the age of like 24, 25 years old. So at that age, to be able to make what you would typically make in a year, in 1 month, that's a big achievement. But it doesn't stop there, because the best thing about e-commerce, once you've got one off the ground, you can keep scaling and scaling and scaling and growing and growing and growing. Why? Because if you've sold something to 1,000 people and it's good, a lot of those people are going to come back and buy it the next month. If you've sold 10,000 things to people and they like it, then a big chunk of those people are going to come back and buy the product again. So what I'm trying to drill into your mind is that if you create something of value, if you create something that people want badly enough that they enjoy, they're going to come back to your brand and your business. And if you've created it on the internet, your business is on a phone, meaning it's open for business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't have to do a fucking thing. You don't have to walk into a store. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to talk to anyone except through your customer service emails, which you can outsource. But what I'm saying is, once you've created the online brand, that is where you're heading. So that's the story of how I personally got into e-commerce. So I want you to learn all the key takeaways from this. I'm going to put a few links in the bio. This is just my personal journey. If you're watching this, you've probably started yours yourself also. So I want you to learn the lessons that I've put forth for you in this video. I want you to digest it. I've got a lot more content coming up, and I hope you got a lot of value out of this video. I've got some bangers in the pipeline. So again, this was my story of how I got into e-commerce, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.